Hello. Another episode of the Well Balanced series, you guys. I am talking to Lindsay today, who is on Instagram as Food Freedom Fertility, and she's a registered dietitian, and she's very passionate about helping women with all things related to period loss, disordered eating, and infertility. And it's just such a sad time that we're in, that a lot of women are struggling with these certain things. So I'm so excited to chat with her and to dive deeper into her story and just how we can help support some of these women that are going through these challenging times. So I'm going to go ahead and approve her in this combo, and we'll get started. There we go.
Hey Kelly, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Sorry. I always have to readjust when someone else joins.
I know.
All right.
I'm trying to fit my face in that little square.
I know. It's always like
Oh,
the
you're
top
back.
of your head or something
Oh, you know
random.
what? I can just do this with my desk. That's 10 times easier. There we go.
There you go. Look at that. Where are you located at?
I live in a smaller town in Texas, so kind of in between Dallas and Houston, Central Texas. Yeah. What about you?
So fun. I am in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
So not too far.
Sure, yeah, we really aren't too far. Awesome. Well, I see you're outside, so like obviously it's not like, super hot or super cold if you're outside enjoying kind of a nice day.
It's the middle for sure. It's like the 70s right now, so it's really nice. But
it's about where we are.
Horrible hot summer, so I'm sure you can relate to that.
Definitely.
Well, I'm so excited to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join. I am so excited for this conversation. I did have some great questions come in as well, but really how this works is I just love to hear a intro about you and see, what your journey is like, what kind of led you to this space and your amazing page. And then we'll just kind of dive into, I think, a lot of the questions are, what can you do? What do you do after birth control to support your body, get that period back? When is it too soon to start trying? And then if you are, at what point do you seek help? Those types of questions that I think a lot of women struggle with and just want to hear from someone else. So, we'll start there. So take it away.
Yeah, sure. So how I got into what I do. So I have, I've been a registered dietitian for 10 years. So I went to school, always knew that I wanted to help people with nutrition and healthy eating. Now, when I started studying nutrition and even my first couple of years practicing as an RD, I was coming out of a eating disorder. Not probably what people think about, like being hospitalized and, walking textbook anorexia, but kind of more of that like disordered eating, but definitely to a place where like I needed treatment. And that was tricky, right? Because I went straight from recovering from an eating disorder into a field that really has an emphasis on healthy eating and weight and body size being a focus. And so I think that working in the field kind of perpetuated a lot of disordered eating habits. And it wasn't until years later when I came off the pill and I was ready to start my family that I realized that I wasn't getting my period, and it took a really long time, but I finally came full circle and recognized that it was like, okay, kind of related to some of these mindset patterns and habits that I was doing that was preventing me from having the cycle. And so because it was so hard to find answers about why my body still wasn't working despite feeling recovered from an eating disorder, I really recognized that there was a gap, that I can't be the only person in the world that struggles with this. And so after my fertility journey and having my daughter, feeling kind of conflicted in the field of working in dietetics and like working with people on pro-intentional weight loss and restriction and everything, I decided I wanted to do something different. So I started an Instagram page. I started my business in January of 2020. Wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do, but kind of just evolved over the time, because as I shared more of my story, the more I started connecting with other women that were like, oh my God, me too. Like, I don't know why I'm not getting my period. We had really similar stories. And so it's just kind of evolved from there. So now what I do today in my private practice is I help women to get their periods back, heal their relationship with food, and be able to get pregnant naturally.
So amazing. I love that so much. I love that you have a personal journey you've been on as well. I think it's very easy to relate to that these days, unfortunately. And it's just, you know, something that I think so many women struggle with, and it's hard to watch. And I, you know, whether you're in that journey or not, and whatever you've gone through personally, I think it's amazing to see accounts like yours educating and providing hope and, you know, in this space. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
So with regards, let's just start from the beginning, I guess. So let's just say you've been on birth control, you know, you've been on it for 10 years, you want to transition off, and you're, of course, wanting to pursue a family in the near future. What would you say, first and foremost, you know, is an ideal timeline for those things to occur? And then also maybe some initial things that can happen when you do get off birth control that can affect fertility, and how you can kind of support that.
Yeah. So number one, I would say so I would definitely say plan on coming off the pill probably 6 months before you would like to be pregnant, just so you know what to expect. You can like calculate for the learning curve, right? Because so many of us don't know anything about our cycle and ovulating and getting pregnant until we actually start that journey. So I would just say come off the pill so that you can start thinking about trying. Also too, it can take your body a little bit of time to regulate and have a period. I always tell people you should ideally ovulate within 4 to 6 weeks of coming off the pill. If you don't, give it a little bit more time. But if you're coming up on the 2 to 3 month mark and you haven't ovulated and you're not getting a period, that is the time to start exploring what else is going on with my body. Don't let your doctor tell you, oh, it can take up to a year until you get your period back. And so there's a variety of reasons why maybe you aren't ovulating right when you come off the pill. Ideally, in a perfect world, that you should. But it's definitely something to start exploring with your doctor. If you are an active woman, it's quite possible that maybe there's a mismatch between the amount of movement and the food that you're allowing yourself. A lot of women, not even on purpose, kind of have some disordered eating habits, possibly related to, trying to control their body size. Where a lot of people, I work with a lot of people who are newlyweds, so they were dieting hard for their wedding and wanted to fit in their dress, and then they come off the pill and they're like, oh my gosh. And maybe you can just take some time to re-nourish your body. So just being aware of those things. The other thing I was going to mention too is we want to start taking a prenatal right away, right? 3 to 6 months before you want to be pregnant, because preconception nutrition is so important. We want to make sure that our bodies are repleted of maybe some vitamins and minerals that have been depleted, especially if you're one of the people like myself and many of my clients who have been on the pill for 10 to 15 years. So we want to be sure that we're getting on a good quality prenatal as soon as we're thinking about starting a family.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any recommendations on types of prenatals that you like a whole food form, or, beef liver obviously is going around, anything in particular?
Yeah, so I mean, taking, some of the B vitamins are depleted. Honestly, unless you have an incredibly restrictive diet, like you're vegan or vegetarian, you're probably going to cover your bases through food. But a quality prenatal, I partner with the brand Needed. I really like them. They have a lot of individual supplements too, if there's concern for, and always, be testing with your doctor to see if you have actual deficiencies. We don't want to be over supplementing, but
Right.
taking quality prenatal in addition to eating enough, that's always going to be your foundation, right? Because even if you are eating the quote healthiest diet, but you simply aren't taking in enough carbohydrates, calories, you're not going to be getting in all of the nutrients that you need to properly nourish your body for fertility.
So can you dive into that a little bit more deeply, just in terms of what a ideal, post-birth control, preconception preparation lifestyle would look like with regards to macronutrients and just eating enough to support that process?
Yeah, so I always recommend making sure someone's eating at least 3 meals per day. We don't want to be engaging in fasting, hopefully eating every roughly 4 hours, and then including a balance of carbs, protein, and fat. So don't be excluding, limiting carbs, limiting fats are usually the biggies that I see women eliminating, but making sure you're eating regularly every 4 hours, at least 3 meals per day. And then if you're an active woman, you're probably going to need 1 or 2, potentially up to 3 snacks per day to cover your bases and make sure that you're getting everything in.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, I think I think you don't realize how big of a stressor that is for your body too. A lot of people think stress is from external sources, and a lot of conversations that even I see with clients is, women don't realize that undereating and over-exercising and those types of things can be so harmful internally. And again, the whole purpose of fertility is to feel safe, right? And so
right.
To create that environment, you need to be kind of taking things back a little bit and analyzing some of those daily habits. So with regards to somebody, and also even over exercising, if you can kind of speak to that a little bit in terms of, you know, what that can look like and what clients who are struggling to get their period back is too much exercise, and, you know, the line between kind of enough and too much.
It's always going to depend upon the individual, but I will say that variety is really key in your workout routine. So like, there's not necessarily anything wrong with doing a lot of high intensity interval training or doing a lot of heavy weightlifting, doing a lot of running, or like if you're just like this person who really thrives and loves cardio, cool, that's fine. It doesn't mean that you can't do those things, but let's not let that be the only form of exercise. So I think that variety is huge. So like if you're doing, you know, a 60-minute spin class, don't do that 7 days a week, right? Incorporating some yoga, go for a hike, go walking. So variety is really key. The other thing too is that taking rest days. So many times people think, oh my gosh, I have to do something every single day. I cannot tell you how important rest is in a proper exercise routine. We see this with Olympic level athletes. They have rest days built into their routine. So if you are a person who is very type A and very check the box and I can't not move, that is kind of maybe, and you're struggling with irregular cycles, you're not getting your period or you're not ovulating, that's always kind of the first place that I tell people to really do a deep dive, right? Because we need to recognize that rest is just as important as movement. And if you're really struggling with having regular cycles, that's probably the first thing that we really need to focus on changing. And then, of course, kind of filling in the gaps with your nutrition as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I think that it's the variety, and I think syncing with your cycle, obviously, and learning to see those phases and know that there's different hormonal shifts happening. Like, it all is very supportive. It's just, it's hard to change something as big as that when you have consistently done, you know, Orange Theory or anything that you've really enjoyed, but it can be very supportive, I'm sure, as you see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that there's more, you know, stuff coming around, like syncing your workouts with your cycle. Obviously, you have to have a cycle to do that. But just kind of the education that like our bodies, depending on our hormones at different times of the month, are going to respond more favorably to different types of training. And so being able to adapt and incorporate that variety in is huge.
So you did mention ovulation, and just, you know, some people can ovulate prior to getting their full period back. And I think ovulation, I did get some questions just like good indicators of ovulation, what exactly, you know, how you can support that. How do you know it's a strong ovulation? Those types of questions. And how can you could you have a period and not ovulate? All of that. So if you can dive in to that a little bit.
Yeah, I love talking about this. So a lot of times whenever I just know when I was growing up, all I was ever taught was like your period comes every 28 days. Like nothing about like what's going on in your cycle, if you know. And so a lot of times people think, oh, I'm getting my period, I'm totally fine. Well, the whole purpose of having a period is ovulating. The whole reason we have periods is to ovulate and make babies. So if you are getting your period like clockwork, but you're not getting pregnant, you know, first step is confirming that you are ovulating. So I always like to use a 3-pronged approach. So number one, we want to predict when we're ovulating, right? Because if we only confirm ovulation, well, then we missed our window for conception. You're not going to get pregnant after you ovulate. You have to have the sperm arrive at the same time or a couple days before in order to get pregnant. So ovulation predictor kit strips are really helpful. So those are just little like tests that you can buy at like CVS. You can order them on Amazon. And what it tests for is luteinizing hormone, which is LH in your urine. And we have a surge in LH right before we ovulate. So if you're using OPKs and you can catch that LH surge, that's the best time to have sex. And that doesn't confirm that you ovulated, but if you're trying to conceive, that's like gold, right? Because we know that we're really hitting that fertile window. The only ways that you can confirm that ovulation did occur is through basal body temperature tracking. So you can test your temperature first thing in the morning before you get out of bed. Track, you know, you're going to see some variations in pre-ovulatory temperatures, and then you're going to see a spike and see higher post-ovulatory temperatures. So that's one way that you can confirm ovulation. It's a little bit tedious, which is why I think the wearables like Temp Drop have become so popular. The other thing that you can do is getting with your doctor and testing 7 days past ovulation to see where your progesterone levels are at. And anything over 3 nanograms per deciliter confirms that you did ovulate. I know you mentioned, like, how do I know if I'm having, you know, good ovulation or bad ovulation? First of all, I think that term is a little misleading. I understand what we're saying, right? Because we want to make sure that progesterone is adequate for pregnancy, but we can do that by assessing the length of our luteal phase. So the day after we ovulate is 1 DPO, up until the day that our period comes is the length of our luteal phase. And so long as that's 10 days or longer, you're probably fine. But testing, further through a blood test or using Prove is a product that I really like to use with my clients in kind of testing progesterone at different days during your luteal phase, and that can kind of assess the health of your ovulation, if you will.
No, that all very, very helpful. Yeah, no, I think that it's once you also get into it and start tracking it and seeing those shifts, it can be very easy to connect the dots. But I think if you are on birth control and you're not clearly having those regular phases, it can be hard to grasp what ovulation is and how it works. So
yeah, definitely. And I think, we're kind of like of the generation where a lot of us were on birth control for like majority of our adult lives. And when you're on birth control, you're not ovulating. So you don't know. So it's like, when you finally come off the pill, it's again, this huge learning curve of figuring out what's normal for your body. And that might take a couple of cycles.
So at what point do you feel is like, if someone's coming off, they're doing all the right things, they're eating enough, they're, exercising appropriately, and things just still aren't happening, at what point do you feel it's necessary to, outsource or a timeline, or even, I think when women get in their mindset, okay, we've been trying for a year and nothing's happening, then that infertility type of marker comes into mind. But what's your approach typically there to guide them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely depends upon the individual and their timeline, right? Like if somebody is coming off the pill with the hopes of being pregnant in the next 3 to 6 months and that's not happening, that's the time to go ahead and start taking next steps. Get with your doctor, have further hormone testing done, start exploring, things related to nutrition, environmental factors, other lifestyle factors, stress and sleep are huge. Thinking about ways to just boost and enhance your fertility. I think you can start that from day one, or again, if things aren't working, start doing a little bit more research. And then, if there's, I would say start the process sooner than later. So like if you are having regular cycles, you have confirmed that you're ovulating on all of your cycles, and you have a good, healthy 10 to 14 day luteal phase, and you've been trying for 6 months and nothing, I think that's the time to go ahead and start having other testing done. Also have your partner checked out too, because 1 in 5 couples struggles with male factor infertility. So we want to make sure that, it takes 2 to tango. We want to make sure that everybody's working properly and that that's not a factor as well. And also loop your partner in on making healthy lifestyle changes, like reducing toxin exposure, making sure everybody's getting enough stress and everybody's getting enough sleep, and managing stress in healthy ways, reducing alcohol, reducing any sort of other exposure, things like that. So kind of looping your partner in as maybe you're making some healthy lifestyle changes too.
Do you see a lot of success with clients who are supporting very naturally through, obviously all the things we've already talked about and that you just mentioned, to see, a positive fertility test? Do you feel like that's something that's very, very possible for those kinds of people who are in their mind right now about maybe not being as fertile as they thought, or having felt lost, I guess, if in the words?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Sometimes I just ramble and I'm like, what am I even saying? I'm just saying, do you, like, for those listening, do you feel like getting off the pill and supporting your body naturally there is hope in this process to actually get pregnant, and you've seen that firsthand?
There's a lot of things that you can do to support your fertility. Now, there's always going to be special circumstances where there's other things going on, and that's why I think being proactive with additional hormone testing, having your partner tested, and all of those things can be really helpful too. Because if we're up against something that might require some fertility assistance, we want to know that sooner than later, so we can do our research and get with the right doctor to know how to support our fertility naturally with medicine if we have to go that route.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so somebody did ask, is it possible / safe to get pregnant the first time you ovulate after your missing period?
Yeah.
You kind of talk about this, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. So, people get pregnant on accident all the time, right? And go on to have healthy, perfectly beautiful babies, right? So I always like to remind people that in a perfect world, again, I kind of mentioned the prenatal. We want to make sure that we are replenishing anything that's been lost after being on years of birth control. And we also want to make sure that our body is just up to par with like the best vitamins and mineral stores. So like, yeah, in a perfect world, it would be come off the pill, start your prenatal 3 to 6 months before you're trying to conceive and come off the pill. There's really no reason why being ovulating 4 to 6 weeks right after you come off the pill and getting pregnant, there's really no reason why that couldn't be a healthy pregnancy. And so if that's, what a gift, right? If you're like, oh, I'd like to be pregnant in the next 3 to 6 months and you get pregnant, boom, right after you come off the pill, that's awesome. And I think that's perfectly healthy and fine.
I love that. Okay, so, and then we talked about how to best support body after stopping birth control. Anything else to add to that list besides, nutrition, exercise, those types of things, replenishing minerals or vitamins and minerals?
Yeah, I mean, just making sure that you and your partner are both on the same page about wanting to start a family, right? Because it can happen really fast for some people. So just making sure that you're at that life stage and you guys are ready to take that next step.
Perfect. And then we talked about good indicators of ovulation, and then just like I think period loss in general. So like when women, go through this type of stage, what can they have done anything while they're on birth control if they're not ready? Should they do the same type of approach there so that they can avoid having, a longer duration of a period loss? Do you feel like there's an average range that women typically get it back? I think that's a common question as well. How long is it going to take, and those types of things.
So like I said, you should be ovulating within 4 to 6 weeks of coming off the pill. So if you aren't, then there's something else going on. I think that the biggest thing is thinking back to why did you go on the pill in the first place? If it was strictly for contraception and not getting pregnant, and you live a healthy, balanced life in terms of, getting enough exercise but not too much, nourishing your body properly but not restricting too much, then you're golden, right? Like there's really no reason why the pill itself is going to negatively impact your fertility. Where I think we start running into problems, Kelly, is whenever women are placed on the pill to solve, I'm using heavy air quotes here if you guys can't see me, solve hormonal issues, right? So if somebody's saying, oh my gosh, I have really heavy painful periods. Okay, let's just put you on the pill. When you come off the pill, you're gonna have heavy painful periods. If you're not getting your period at all, like in the case of hypothalamic amenorrhea and the clients that I work with, when you come off the pill, you're not going to have your period, right? Because you were never actually having a normal, healthy hormonal cycle by being on the pill. You're just simply getting that withdrawal bleed. So I think that as women are preparing to come off the pill in preparation of maybe starting a family, kind of thinking back to their history. I will say the tricky thing is if you've been on the pill for a decade or longer, there's a lot of things that could have changed over that decade, right? There could be hormonal imbalances that started to occur, whether it's related to overexercise and underfueling or just chronic stress, things like that. So I think the biggest thing, because we can't go back in time, right? We can't go back to being on the pill as long as we were. I think the biggest thing is as we come off the pill to, if we aren't getting a period or we aren't ovulating right away, is to really start doing some independent research, exploring those things, looping your doctor in and making sure you're working with a physician that you really trust and is going to listen to you when you're advocating for yourself.
No, I think that's really, I love that, it's all about empowering women to know their bodies well and understand what's going on. And I think just education on, again, like how the phases work, how ovulation works, so that they can have these conversations and feel empowered as they're obviously fighting for their health and for their future family. So I think that's really awesome with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I'll say too, I know that it can be really intimidating to talk to your doctor because we trust them to be experts in medicine, but you are the expert in your own body. Nobody knows your body better than you. So don't ignore your own intuition. Mm-hmm. Something's off with your body and you're not getting the best support from whoever you're working with. Get second opinions, do more research, advocate for yourself.
I love that. So to wrap up, do you have any, if someone's planning to get pregnant in the near future, any resources that you recommend, whether it's podcasts, books that you know, and especially with regards to getting a period back, understanding that whole process a little bit more. So anything to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I really like the book, The Fifth Vital Sign. I don't know if you recommend that to like people that you work with either, but I think that it's just a really great deep dive on your cycle, what's normal, what's not. And I think, I'm not sure if the authors are linked or not, but another book that's really helpful is Taking Charge of Your Fertility. So kind of same idea, but kind of with a more like fertility flair of basically like, how do I get pregnant and what do I do if I'm not getting pregnant?
It's a textbook. It's a big one.
Yeah.
But it's great. Well, this was so awesome. I really appreciate your time. And if you just want to leave with how people can follow you, support you, and the things that you offer for your clients and your community.
Yeah, sure. So my offer's changing a little bit because I'm going on maternity leave, oddly enough.
Congrats.
I work with clients on restoring their fertility. So people that have gone, 5, 10, 15 years without having a natural period, in particular people who are struggling with hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is period loss related to stress and under eating. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I just had. Oh. I don't know how to get my video back.
You're good. I see you.
Oh, you can. Okay, it just blocked me out. And so I offer coaching programs. So right now I'm kind of like wrapping on the tail end of my coaching program because I'm planning on taking time off for maternity leave. But if somebody's interested in coaching, they can learn more by clicking on the link in my bio. I also have my website, foodfreedominfertility.com, if they just want like details on program and things that I do. And then November 1st, I will be launching an online course called Reclaim Your Fertility that's going to just kind of walk you through my method, kind of the DIY on how to recover your period, improve your relationship with food, and be able to get pregnant naturally.
I love that so much. And I will definitely refer clients your way who are struggling and who may need it. But I look forward to supporting you and staying in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kelly.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.